Did you know that some of the discoveries that changed the entire course of human history were never planned at all? They started with accidents, strange observations, or experiments that seemed like complete failures. In fact, many of the technologies and medicines we rely on every single day exist because someone noticed something unusual and decided to investigate it instead of ignoring it. Today, I want to tell you several fascinating stories about discoveries that happened completely by accident, discoveries that reshaped medicine, science, industry, and even the way we cook our food. But before we dive deeper into these incredible stories, if you enjoy mysterious facts, hidden moments from history, and surprising discoveries that most people never hear about, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know that you want to see more videos like this. Now, let's begin with one of the most important discoveries in the entire history of medicine. Our story starts in 1928 in a laboratory in London. A scientist named Alexander Fleming was researching bacteria. At the time, infections were one of the biggest killers in the world. Something as small as a cut on your finger could lead to a deadly infection because doctors had very few ways to fight harmful bacteria. Antibiotics did not exist yet, and many diseases that are easily treated today were once life-threatening. Fleming spent most of his time studying bacteria in petri dishes, carefully observing how they grew and spread. However, his laboratory was far from perfectly organized. Petri dishes were stacked everywhere, and some of them were left sitting on tables for days. One day, Fleming returned to his lab after being away for a short period of time and began examining some of his old samples. Most of them looked normal. Bacteria had grown across the entire surface of the dish. But one of the dishes looked completely different. In the center of the dish, a small patch of mold had appeared. That by itself was not unusual. Contamination happens often in laboratories. But what caught Fleming's attention was the area surrounding the mold. The bacteria had completely disappeared there. It looked as if the mold had created an invisible shield where bacteria simply could not survive. Instead of throwing the contaminated dish away, Fleming became curious. He began studying the mold more carefully and discovered that it belonged to a group called Penicillium. Even more importantly, the mold produced a substance capable of killing dangerous bacteria. That substance became known as penicillin. Penicillin became the world's first antibiotic and changed medicine forever. Before antibiotics existed, infections were one of the leading causes of death worldwide. Surgeries were extremely dangerous because any small infection could become fatal. But antibiotics allowed doctors to treat bacterial diseases effectively for the first time in history. It is estimated that antibiotics have saved hundreds of millions of lives since their discovery. And all of this happened because one scientist noticed something strange in a dish that most people would have thrown away without a second thought. But accidental discoveries do not only happen in laboratories. Sometimes they happen when scientists are looking out into the universe itself. Nearly 40 years after Fleming's discovery, another strange observation would lead to an entirely new understanding of the cosmos. In 1967, a graduate student named Jocelyn Bell was studying radio signals coming from space. She worked with a radio telescope that produced enormous amounts of data every day. Long sheets of paper covered in strange patterns represented radio waves detected from distant parts of the universe. Most of the signals were meaningless noise caused by natural cosmic activity. Bell spent hours analyzing these charts, looking for anything unusual. One day, she noticed a small repeating signal hidden among the noise. It appeared again and again at perfectly regular intervals. The signal was extremely precise, almost like the ticking of a clock somewhere in space. At first, the scientists believed it might be interference from Earth, perhaps a radio transmission or satellite signal. But the signal continued repeating with perfect timing. For a brief moment, the research team even joked that it might be coming from aliens and labeled it LGM, meaning Little Green Men. Eventually, the true explanation was discovered. The signal was coming from an object called a pulsar, a rapidly spinning neutron star left behind after a massive star explodes in a supernova. Neutron stars are among the most extreme objects in the universe. They are incredibly dense. A single teaspoon of neutron star material would weigh billions of tons. As these stars spin, they emit beams of radiation from their magnetic poles. When those beams sweep across Earth, radio telescopes detect them as pulses of radio waves. Pulsars became one of the most important tools in modern astronomy. Scientists use them to study gravity, the structure of galaxies, and even the behavior of space-time itself. And yet the first pulsar was discovered simply because a student noticed a strange repeating signal that others might have ignored. And sometimes discoveries don't come from looking at distant stars or studying bacteria. Sometimes they happen during completely ordinary moments in everyday work. One such discovery happened in 1945 when an engineer named Percy Spencer was working with radar equipment during World War II. Spencer was testing a device called a magnetron that produced powerful microwave radiation used in radar systems. During one experiment, Spencer noticed something unusual. The chocolate bar in his pocket had melted. At first, this might seem like a small and unimportant detail, but Spencer realized that the room was not warm enough for chocolate to melt on its own. Curious about what had happened, he decided to test an idea. He placed popcorn kernels near the magnetron device. Within seconds, they began popping and jumping across the table. Next, he placed an egg nearby. The egg quickly exploded because the inside heated up so rapidly. Spencer realized that microwave radiation could heat food extremely quickly by causing water molecules inside the food to vibrate. This discovery eventually led to the invention of the microwave oven. The first microwave ovens were extremely large and expensive, but over time the technology improved. Today, microwave ovens are one of the most common kitchen appliances in the world. Millions of people use them every single day to heat food in seconds. Yet the entire technology began with something as simple as a melted chocolate bar. But the pattern of accidental discovery continues even further back in history. In 1856, a young chemistry student named William Perkin was attempting to create a synthetic version of quinine, a medicine used to treat malaria. At the time, quinine was extremely valuable because it came from the bark of a rare tree. Perkin hoped to create a laboratory version of the medicine using chemical reactions. During one experiment, something went completely wrong. Instead of producing quinine, his mixture turned into a thick, dark substance that looked like a complete failure. While cleaning the container with alcohol, Perkin noticed something remarkable. The liquid produced a bright purple color. This was extremely important because purple dye was incredibly rare and expensive at the time. In ancient history, purple clothing was often reserved for royalty because producing the dye required thousands of sea snails. Perkin had accidentally created the first synthetic dye, later known as mauve. The discovery revolutionized the textile industry. Suddenly, vibrant colors could be produced cheaply and easily. This accidental discovery helped launch the modern chemical industry, eventually leading to the development of synthetic materials, pharmaceuticals, and plastics. And the list of accidental discoveries does not stop there. Another fascinating example happened in 1938 when a chemist named Roy Plunkett was experimenting with gases used in refrigeration. During one experiment, he stored a gas inside a metal cylinder. Later, when he tried to release the gas, nothing came out. It seemed as if the gas had disappeared. Curious about what had happened, he opened the cylinder and discovered a strange white material coating the inside. At first, the substance looked unremarkable, but when scientists studied it more carefully, they realized it had incredible properties. It was extremely slippery, resistant to heat, and chemically stable. This material became known as Teflon. Today, Teflon is widely known for its use in non-stick frying pans, but it is also used in aerospace technology, electronics, and medical devices because of its unique properties. Once again, a confusing experimental result led to a discovery that shaped modern technology. When we look at all of these stories together, something very interesting appears. A mold growing in a forgotten petri dish, a mysterious signal from deep space, a melted chocolate bar in an engineer's pocket, a failed chemical experiment producing a brilliant purple dye, a missing gas that turned into a strange new material. These events happened in completely different fields: medicine, astronomy, engineering, chemistry, and materials science. Yet they all share the same origin. Each discovery started with something unexpected, something that looked like a mistake or a failure. But instead of ignoring the strange result, someone became curious and decided to investigate it. That curiosity turned accidents into breakthroughs that changed the world. The history of science shows us that discovery often happens when something does not go according to plan. Experiments fail. Equipment behaves strangely. Results appear that scientists never expected. But sometimes those unexpected moments reveal something far more important than the original goal. They open doors to entirely new ideas and technologies, and that is perhaps the most fascinating lesson behind these stories. The next world-changing discovery might not come from a perfectly planned experiment. It might come from a mistake, a strange observation, or a moment when someone notices something unusual and decides to ask a simple question. Why did that happen?